Hi, everyone, and welcome inside Folsom Field for the Devil Source Postgame Show presented by Jones Auto Centers. Gabby Chernoff and Chris Cartman here following Arizona State's 42-17 win over Coach Prime and the Buffs. And Chris, this team is now 8-3 on the season, 7-2 in conference play, and it's just kind of been incredible given everything that's happened, which Kenny Dillingham talked about, and we'll get into that earlier. Yeah. This team still alive, although the chances have definitely slimmed a lot in that Big 12 title game race. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. And it was kind of the tale of almost two halves, but almost the first three quarters versus the last quarter.
The dam broke in the fourth quarter.
The dam broke in the fourth quarter. And a lot of that was thanks to Raleek Brown. He wasn't even the starting running back at the beginning of the season. It was Tyson Brown. And today he set the record for most rushing yards on the road in ASU history, 255 tonight against Colorado. Chris, just what did you make of his performance and everything he was able to do tonight?
Yeah, keys to the game before this morning, run the damn ball. Colorado's given up 210 rushing yards per game coming into this game, by far the worst in the Big 12. I was a little surprised that ASU didn't have more quarterback design runs with the success of Jeff Sims against Iowa State. But I knew that Raleek Brown would be heavily relied upon. And then he had the two that just were the long touchdown runs, including the 88-yarder, which tied Jeff Sims against Iowa State for the longest of the season for ASU. 255 rushing yards. That's the third most ever in an ASU football game, after Eno Benjamin had 300 and something, and then Cam Scadaboo, Mississippi State, 262, I believe. Sorry if I'm wrong off the top of my head. But, yeah, nevertheless, impressive performance, over 1,000 rushing yards for the season. Sean Aguano continues to churn out these 1,000-yard backs going back to 2018. Eno Benjamin, Rashad White, Xavier Valade, Cam Scadaboo, and now what we saw tonight from Eno Benjamin. I mean, what we saw tonight from Raleek Brown.
How many Sean Aguano running backs can you name?
Yeah, wow. But listen, here's the thing that really has impressed me so much about it, is I was thinking about it, and these running backs, they've all come from different levels. Eno Benjamin was a high school addition. Then he goes to Rashad White, junior college running back. Then he goes to Xavier Valade, came out of Wyoming. That's a group of 5, group of 6 school now. Then he got Cam Scadaboo from an FCS Sacramento State. And now he's got Raleek Brown as a Power 4 transfer. That is astonishing when you put those in a row and what they've been able to accomplish. If there was going to be a night that it was going to happen, given that Colorado's really struggled against the run, this figured to be that. But cool story for Raleek, because he remember, he had the hamstring last year and he wasn't able to really show what he was capable of. And then he gained 15 pounds in the offseason, tried to get bigger, stronger, run better inside. ASU went to more gap scheme runs in the second half. That's been an area where we haven't seen them be successful this season. They're more of a zone run heavy team. And so they were getting a hat on a hat, creating those big open holes, and he was just driving right through them.
Well, you kind of joked with Kenny Dillingham in the press conference. Sean Aguano was one of the winningest head coaches in Arizona before he was able to become the running back coach at ASU, high school coach, yes. And you joked, oh, don't let Jason Mons hear him say that. And he said, well, we've had a few, Charlie Regal, and then Mons, and then Aguano. So he's just raking in that Arizona talent, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big statement that he made when he put his staff together. It was we're going to have the best Arizona high school staff that's ever been assembled on a college team. We're going to be homegrown, local. We're going to really try to activate the Valley with our staff and local recruiting. It hasn't necessarily worked all that well with high school recruits to this point, but they have had a lot of success with transfers. And I just think that the stability of a lot of these guys wanting to stay and be in Tempe, and their families are here and their kids are in school and all that stuff. Sean Aguano has done a really great job, and he's the longest tenured coach. And also, he was the interim head coach the last time that ASU came here, I believe.
And in that game, Jordan Tyson had an 88-yard punt return, and in this game, Raleek Brown had an 88-yard rush to the end zone. So there's a parallel
Crazy
for
eights.
you. And the reason that touchdown was set up was ASU fumbled the ball, and then Keith Abney picked it off, and then the very first play of that drive where ASU got the ball back, Raleek Brown housed it.
That was a dagger.
That was the dagger. ASU lost the turnover battle 4-1, surprising considering that's such a big point of emphasis for this team. But Kenny Dillingham said it. We all saw it. Defense bailed everybody out once again.
Yeah, like 17 drives by Colorado to get 17 points in the game. That's nuts. Like, that's
one
like
for one deal.
Yeah, 1 point per drive. That's like about as bad as you probably could expect to do in a Power 4 football game. Justin Watley had a couple sacks. He also had a little bit of some boneheaded stuff out there with a late hit that was costly. And then I guess one of the Colorado players was like talking mess at the end of the game, and there was some jokes going about that.
There was one too. I think it was after that Eusebio touchdown. One of them was kind of getting into it with Tyson, and the refs had to pull him apart.
There's I think things have fallen apart for Deion Sanders at Colorado. This is like 4 bad losses kind of in a row for them. And they've had a lot of injuries. Their 2 offensive tackles were out. Their 2 corners were out. Their best safety, who was their leading tackler, got hurt in this game. So it wasn't just ASU being injured. Colorado, very injured, depleted, demoralized, no chance at a bowl game even coming into this game. So you knew all those things led to probably ASU having a much better opportunity to win in a blowout. I didn't know that it was going to happen. I kind of suspected there might be some bad turnovers. But ASU's defense did a really, really tremendous job in the game.
And then, speaking of Jordan Tyson, last time he was here, he was playing for the Buffaloes, actually, and so it's his return to his former school where his collegiate career began. He's back, like you said, from that hamstring injury, hasn't played a game of football in over a month since October 18th, back when ASU beat Texas Tech in that upset, and Kenny Dillingham said that they were kind of limiting his snap count, trying to get him back into the full rhythm of things, and had a lot of great things to say about his character and just kind of his willingness to come back, even though this is his last year.
Yeah, look, a lot of guys would have shut it down. Like, he's probably going to be a first-round pick. There's a risk factor always of coming back and playing. Maybe you could tear your hamstring worse and be out for some months when you want to be getting ready for the combine and all that. And he gave a pregame speech where he talked about it wasn't about him and his return to Boulder, where he was a star as a freshman, led the team in receiving yards a few years ago. Tore his knee up really bad at the end of in November in his last game here, and now he's back and had a big catch early in the game, and they wanted him to play about half of his snaps, so 30-ish, and that's where he roughly ended up. You could tell that he's still the best receiver on ASU's team, even though Derek Eusebio, he stepped up in a big way, and it seems like he probably should have gotten more targets and more opportunities earlier. And Jeff Sims, he got the ball to Shimon Mateer and Malik McClain a little bit here and there, and so there was, they were spreading the ball around. The offensive line did a very good job in pass protection of creating opportunities. The turnovers were ugly. Jeff Sims, just widely throwing over Raleek Brown on a wheel route. Then he gave the ball away, just like bobbled it into the hands of a Colorado player. Raleek Brown had lost a fumble. So, yeah, there was some ugly stuff. And they haven't been a turnover-prone team, really, under Dillingham. But that's one that they're going to not want to think too much about moving forward. They'll have to play a lot better against Arizona. Arizona's one of the better teams, in the conference in terms of how it's been playing in recent weeks.
And Kenny Dillingham said that too. He acknowledged that fact, and kind of he was asked about the explosive plays, which ASU had a good handful of tonight, and he said, "Yeah, it's week 11. Better late than never. So we got to put that together against Arizona next week." But it's been I think at least one post-game show since we brought up ASU special teams, and we're going to talk about them on more of a positive note today. So you had that fake punt by Canyon Floyd, the Peach Bowl play to Blazin Lano Wong, and a couple other good plays by that special teams unit as well.
Yeah, Blazin Lano Wong is like, he wants to be a receiver. He's auditioning for a tight end role or something. That was like, he was wide open, and Canyon Floyd has done a good job of being able to pass the ball. The most important thing is there were just no like big glaring problems on special teams. There was things that didn't go well. They had a punt that was returned that was a line driver, and then Canyon Floyd had another punt that went into the end zone, but they made their field goals. They did a good job with that fake punt. They got a 2-point play, and again, like, pretty good job overall. Like, Jesus Gomez is, he's one of the better kickers when there's good operation in the Big 12. Jack Nudo, as taking over for Charlie Ragle, I feel like he's getting into a good rhythm. They had the 2-point play last game against West Virginia that worked out. So kudos to him.
Yeah, lots of trick plays in these past 2 games for ASU. I think that kind of started in the Peach Bowl. I remember we were watching the open practice, and they were just running so many trick plays, and it was after the open filming window, so we were all just sitting there, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they'll use any of these, and they did, and they used another one of them tonight. But you jokingly tweeted out that even when it's not applying to ASU, special teams are still hurting them. That BYU-Cincinnati game, which BYU ended up winning because Cincinnati at one point I think was 0 for 3 in field goals.
Yeah.
So that significantly kind of dwindled ASU's chances at that Big 12 title game. There's still a couple of ways that they can make it in, but looking pretty unlikely.
Yeah, ASU really needed Cincinnati to come through. BYU is a better team than Cincinnati, so even with that game being at Cincinnati, I kind of suspected BYU would win. The 2 scenarios, coupled with which both require ASU to win over Arizona, of course, would be BYU losing to UCF, one of the worst teams in the conference, and that game is in Provo. So there's a 5 to 10% at the most chance, like 1 in 15 to 1 in 20 chance of that scenario. And then the other one would be Utah losing at Kansas and Texas Tech losing at West Virginia. And that's going to happen once or twice out of 100, probably. So very low odds. I would say overall the odds are maybe, I'm not a math, we talked about we're not math people, but it's
like Kenny Dillingham's not a vocabulist.
Yeah, I would say it's less than 10%. I mean, it's probably like when you factor that ASU's a 50-50 to win to beat Arizona, roughly, it's maybe a 5% chance, a 1 in 20 shot at it for ASU to make it to the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, and Arizona with an emphatic win over Baylor today as well. Kind of a rough start to their season, and they've really picked it back up. And like Kenny Dillingham said, one of the best teams in the Big 12 as it stands right now. But he also mentioned that, there is still a chance for ASU to be in that title game. The chances aren't zero, but like you said, it requires them to beat Arizona at home next week. And this is back-to-back seasons in which the last game of the season, ASU is still playing meaningful football, and considering where this program was, you even look back 3 years ago, that's a pretty impressive thing to see, especially given everything this team has had to go through, all the injuries and just everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you had told me at the beginning of the season that ASU was going to need to win 4 or more games with Jeff Sims at quarterback starting to get to the Big 12 championship game, I would have said that's extremely unlikely. And here they are, like 1 game away, coupled with needing some other things to happen. But they're a 2-loss team in the Big 12. They were a 2-loss team last year in the Big 12, and it was a 4-way tie that enabled that for them to be able to play in that game and win and go to the Peach Bowl. So, given what they've accomplished in the injuries and the difficulty of the schedule, especially in the first 2/3 of the schedule, I think it's pretty impressive. It hasn't really looked good in a lot of these games. It doesn't matter if you win ugly. It just matters what what it looks like in the win column. And I think that one of the most important things that Dillingham said was that our fans are engaged. They've sold out every game this season. They're going to sell out Arizona. That's a once in a generational thing in ASU historically, to sell out every game in a season. And the bar's been raised. Like, remember we were talking about ASU being 25th in the CFP rankings. And ASU fans are disappointed with that, right? And I get it because the expectations were so high for this team with everybody coming back from a Big 12 championship season. But the other teams they're playing and they're pretty good too. And it's hard. It's really hard. And so if the expectations are higher and the university leadership, Michael Crow, Jim Runn, Graham Rossini, if they are fully invested in what's going on, as Dillingham said recently he feels really good about last week, right? And then the booster community gets more activated, which I think there's going to be a lot more news coming about that in the near future. And then you got head coaching salaries endowed for Greg Powers, and the fact that that's probably going to happen more often. The trend line is very positive for ASU athletics right now in a way that I haven't necessarily felt in recent decades. And, Todd Graham, he had a run where the back-to-back 10-win seasons, and he was doing a great job with booster outreach, and there was a lot of things that were positive, but then he lost his whole staff. And that goes back to having a lot of these guys have Arizona as their home and wanting to be in Tempe. And their roster continuity, right? There's a lot of positive things. And there's always challenges you have to overcome and a lot of moving pieces, and it's not easy. But they are just in a better place, and things are healthier overall, the actual players on the team notwithstanding, than things have been in a long time.
Well, when he did say, "I'm staying, I was never leaving," he said, my entire family basically lives on the same street, same block as me. I don't remember the exact geography of what he said.
His sister's next door. His parents are around the corner. His wife, is pregnant, is here. She's due in a couple months. Yeah, this is home, and it means a lot to them.
Well, he always said when he first became head coach, there's always been flashes in the pan, but we want to take it to the next level, and it seems like you said, ASU trending in a very positive direction on that front. One last game in the regular season for Arizona State, the Territorial Cup next week at Mountain America Stadium, 7 p.m. kickoff. We'll have you covered through the week as Arizona State gets set to do so, and then who knows what the postseason and perhaps bowl season holds in store. So until then, Gabby Chernoff and Chris Cartman here from Folsom Field for the Sun Devil Source Postgame Show presented by Jones Auto Centers.